Your unique story, our global audience. Global One Media.
Hello, and welcome to another one of our interviews with senior leaders of companies from different sectors to help you, our viewers, make intelligent investment decisions. I am Munir Barazi, your business analyst and host. And today, I'm delighted to welcome David Williams, the executive chairman at Thomson Resources, an Australian exploration and mineral development company with a large portfolio of promising projects in New South Wales, Australia. Those projects feature high grades of silver, gold, zinc, tin, and copper. Thomson Resources is listed on the Australian Securities Exchange as TMZ and the OTCQB as TMZRF. Hello, David. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hiya, Medea, and welcome. Well, thank you for your welcome, and hello from sunny Australia, over there to snowy Norway.
Yeah, I can see the beautiful background where you are. Let me start by congratulating you on selling your Texas projects. Could you tell us first a bit about the project and about the specifics of the deal?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I suppose it illustrates well what we've said from the outset as we pulled together the various projects in the New England Fold Belt hub and spoke strategy. And that was optionality and flexibility. If one of the projects that formed the strategy didn't quite work the way you wanted it to, then that didn't destroy the whole strategy. So, Texas, when we've looked at it and we've had our techno-economic evaluation undertaken, the two main deposits just did not stack up from an economic perspective. And so when we looked at it, we thought, okay, well, then why continue with it? Let's look at the site for the central processing facility closer to the main resources down at Mount Carrington, and we got a better outcome. So that was fine, but then we had to work out, well, if we're not going to deal with it, we might as well move it on. It's not about hanging on to things. So we looked around and we knew that a private company called Warwick Gold Holding had pegged a lot of land actually around the Texas project. So we guessed that they probably had quite a strong interest. And so we commenced communications with them, and very quickly we could see that they had a vision for a strategy they were following, which is a little bit different from ours and a little different focus. It's not necessarily on the silver or the zinc. It's about other minerals that they believe sit within the surrounding land and including on our tenements. But what they wanted was to be able to start processing the minerals as quickly as possible. And there's only one place around this area that you can go to for that, and that is the Texas silver mine, which we own. So we pulled together a deal fairly quickly, dealing with each of our concerns, where Warwick Gold have stepped in to effectively take operational control from signing the agreement. And then with their objective of moving into restarting the processing at Texas and initially starting on processing the materials on the heaps. And that'll happen sort of take probably 3 to 6 months to restart it. The process is not a lot different from what it was previously. And then that will start generating an income for them. And then that will start in itself generating income for Thomson, as well as repayment of the monies that are locked away from in the bond. So at the end of the day, it becomes a win-win, which is always a good business agreement when you come out with a win-win. They get early access to processing. We remove operational control and the costs of that from around ourselves, but we still get further share in the upside as they go forward. So it's an interesting outcome. Again, proof of what our strategy was with the New England Fold Belt hub and spoke strategy.
Excellent. Sounds like it was a favorable deal for both sides, and it's in line with your overall strategy. Why do you think this deal was so attractive, or why do you think the Texas project was so attractive for Warwick Gold Holdings, the buyer?
Yes. Well, I think the key, the number one key was processing, and the processing plant at Texas was on care and maintenance on turnkey basis. So essentially, they were buying into and accessing a mineral lease with an environmental authority that would permit the processing of materials, with a plant for the processing at least, that with a bit of startup maintenance work, they could restart fairly quickly. And that was a key driver for them, was being able to access that processing facility. But having said that, there's also the land holding that we had around it, which dovetails very nicely with the land holding that they have pegged themselves, essentially over pretty much all of what they call the Texas beds. And it's what's in the Texas beds, which is what they're after. And they might be called Warwick Gold Holdings. It's not just gold or silver that they're after. This is going to be a very interesting story when it comes out. So watch this space. And I think also for them, they were keen to be partnered with a company like Thomson that's got that operational basis, listed company, it's got the corporate governance, and got the further opportunity that they can leverage off with our hub and spoke and dealing with some of the output that they'll produce from their project.
Very good. Sounds like many factors rather than one made this project attractive. And the Texas project was on the periphery when it comes to your central processing pathway study. Do you expect higher efficiencies now that you can focus on other projects?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is particularly where we're heading. I mean, the first thing that we were looking for was, does the whole strategy work? And that's what that study demonstrated, was that, yes, it does. And that was done on low metal prices and on a limited amount of the resources that will be available. So, having got the green light for that, we then need to become more focused. And we know there's enormous potential of gold, silver, copper, zinc, and probably other metals in the resources at Mount Carrington. And therefore, having the central processing facility nearer, that improves your costings. And we've still then got the higher grade the minerals to come out of Webb's and Conrad. So being able to focus on those, in a sense, doesn't change a lot in relation to Texas, but we know we're dealing with more valuable minerals as far as the strategy is concerned out of Mount Carrington, Webb's and Conrad. Whereas at Texas, we'd have to go chasing those higher grade cores in each of the deposits. And that was clearly going to take more time. It was going to be more sporadic and therefore more effort to pull it together. So while Texas is a great site, it would have been a great site with the central processing facility, if you're not going to really be using any of the resources there, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have it there and so far away from the other deposits. So, it really is going to help us sort of focus. And you start to see that in some of the other initiatives we've announced where, let's get ourselves down to the core projects and let's focus on that. Let's direct the dollars to that. Let's direct the human resources to that. So we're getting the most economically efficient way forward as far as advancing the strategy.
Very good. Sounds like a wise decision indeed to go forward with that. And another very good development, David, you've recently received a grant from New South Wales government. Could you tell our viewers about this grant? How much was it?
Yeah, so look, it's a co-contribution grant. So basically, when we spend $2, they give us $1 back, and it's up to 500,000 Australian dollars. So it's not an insignificant grant. And essentially, what that will enable us to do is a very thorough program that we outlined in the study. So some further testing ore sorting, refining the process, doing some drilling associated with that to get the fresh sample. So it really does mean that we can do a thorough work on that test work. But what's important about it is really it's about what they call critical minerals and high-tech metals. And it's called a Critical Minerals High-Tech Metals Activation Fund. So they're not looking about finding new deposits. That the New South Wales government is about saying, well, we know it's there. We know we've got a series of these deposits. How do we get them into production? How do we get them out of the ground? And that's what this fund is focused on. And to us, not only the financial assistance is great, but it's that New South Wales government saying, yeah, we like what you're doing with this strategy. We think this strategy makes a lot of sense. It's good for us in a number of respects, as in you're well advanced on being able to get these critical minerals into production, but it's also you're growing new industry in the regional areas, and we're interested in both of those. So, it's just, as always, great to have the imprimatur from your local state government on the project. It just gives you the credibility as far as the strategy is concerned, and it means that they're interested. So in going forward and in developing the project, we know we're going to have their support.
Exactly. This says a lot about your performance. And I imagine you had to meet a certain criteria to be awarded this grant. Is that the case?
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly you had to have a project which was at roughly at least at the stage that we're at. So it's not as if, well, I've got a few drill holes in the ground and I think I can take it forward. It's, well, you've got proven resources. You've got a proven concept and study there. What do you need to push that along to make that happen quicker? So, it's that credibility. It's the reality of it. And of course, they've also been very concerned about, the feasibility. Is it going to work in the long term? And are you going to be there to run it through into the long term? And so, again, all important points that the government looks at and carefully scrutinise us on in reaching their decision to award the grant.
All right. And so now that you have more funds and you intend to use them on testing works, what else do you plan on using those funds for?
Yeah, look, 2023 in general, and I can just talk in general, is about it's about bringing it all together so that we're ready to kick off in a very focused way the preliminary feasibility study, at around the end of 2023. That's going to involve completing the updating of the mineral resource estimates for all of the Mount Carrington deposits. It's about doing drilling at each of the deposits, both to assist with conducting that test work, but also particularly in the case of Mount Carrington, testing our concept of the deposits in the centre area all coalescing into one large polymetallic deposit. And then the other, which we sort of touched on just a couple of months ago, is what we can see looks like significant copper potential surrounding that gold silver polymetallic deposit. And with the All Nations drill hole there producing copper at 3 to 5%, we want to go chasing that, because that was a hole that was designed to test the gold extent of the Kylo pit, not looking for copper. And we think there is a lot more there, both towards surface as well as at depth. So it'll enable us to do that drilling. And then also in the case of Webbs, we want to increase the confidence there of the resources, as well as test the new geological model there, which would lead to expansion and extension of those resources. So, look, there's going to be a mixture of the non-interesting stuff, if I would put it that way, but very important stuff of the test work, of the refining the process, testing the concept of ore sorting and whether that will work, coupled with drilling, updated mineral resource estimate. So there'll be a lot going on in 2023, and some of it should be pretty interesting, particularly some of those drill results I think will be very interesting. Keep your eye on and watch out for.
Very exciting and promising indeed. And my last question, what is next for Thomson Resources?
Well, obviously next is, as I outlined, that 2023, but you're also going to see putting in place that focus that I touched on, and that started with the sale of Texas. So as we noted it right at the end of that Texas announcement, we'll be going out and commencing early in 2023 the demerger process for the Lachlan Fold Belt. So that's the gold and the tin in central New South Wales. A demerger there, that's about saying, well, look, we've got a valuable asset there. Yeah, we haven't quite got a resource there, but tin is good. There's good gold results, but we're not getting any value for it. So shareholders are not getting any value for it. Let's put it into a new vehicle. Let's IPO that vehicle, listed on the ASX or wherever, and then let's hand the shares that we get in return for that back to our shareholders at Thomson. So immediately, shareholders in Thomson at the time will get shares in the new vehicle for nothing, which they'll be able to trade immediately, and will clearly have that value and receive that value, which they're not getting at the moment. And then the other part will be the dealing with the Chillago project up in far north Queensland, which is a very early stage exploration, but it's got some pretty interesting targets and prospects there. Not necessarily something that's ready to put into a demerger or spin out like that, but certainly getting a lot of interest on the divestment of it. And so, we want to get through into 2023. We're honed down to just the New England Fold Belt strategy projects. We've got the all the test work done and the resources completed, so we're launching into a PFS, and that's what we're focused on. We've handed value back to the shareholders during the year through the demerger of the Lachlan Fold Belt, and we've removed other non-core projects. So you'll see a much more focused Thomson by the end of 2023, launching down that feasibility phase and getting value, not just for the silver, but also for gold, for copper, for zinc, and for the tin, if we can make that work as well.
Great. Lots of good developments taking place with the Thomson Resources. David Williams, Executive Chairman at Thomson Resources, thank you very much for your time today. We look forward to seeing you again.
Pleasure as always talking to you, Munir. Sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.